And we're recording. Welcome, everyone. Just wanted to make this recording and introduce you guys to the awesome couple of Evie and Pete Felarca. And they're amazing advocates when it comes to the world of autism and anyone that have children in the spectrum. Amazing advocates both for the parents and families, but especially the children when it comes to the tools and resources that are available to people, and wanting to give out that information and be advocates for it. And they're actually have an event scheduled, and we'll post the event on the comment below once this video is posted, to make sure that everyone can sign up for that event. And when is that event, Evie?
That's going to be on this Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Okay,
Thursday,
so this Thursday, that would be the 23rd?
23rd.
At 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right?
Yes.
And how long is the event going to be?
It's only going to be an hour.
Okay, awesome, amazing. 1 hour packed full of information, resources, tools that families that have children in the spectrum can take advantage of. So looking forward to that. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring Evie and Pete on here is just to share their story and share like why they're doing all of this, and why it's important for people to know about it and to share it. So just before we get started, Evie and Pete, can you give me a little bit of a background on who you guys are, what you've been up to, and your current situation?
Sure. So my name is Pete Felarca. We have a special needs son, Nathan. And just a little bit of background on myself. I did 20 years in the Navy. I retired in 2010. Currently work for the government still as a government civilian. And we've been parenting a autistic child now for the last 12 plus years. He's a teenager, he's at 14, so there's a lot of challenges. We'll talk about that. But for me, I'm a servant leader that really just wants to be able to advocate for families that have special needs children. So that's where I'm coming from my space to be able to do that. Evie?
My name is Evie, and I've been a stay-at-home mom for over 17 years. And what we want to do is help other families, other special needs families, go through this autism journey that they're going to embark upon. It's very tough in the very beginning. We didn't know where to start, who to talk to, what to do next. And knowing that we have 12 plus years of experience, we want to give back to those who are just getting their diagnosis and help them through this, where they don't have to struggle. If they know, if we've gone through it, we can help them, or we can even find the resources to help them get through these challenging times, especially now since what's going on. It's a new normal, and it's very, very challenging if we don't have our kids in a regular routine and in a school. So I think times are changing, and we want to help those who are just getting a diagnosis get their feet wet and get onto a pathway that they can help their child, not only them, but themselves, and then the other family members get through this all together, because we definitely need support from everyone, your family, your friends, anyone that can help the family, because it takes a village.
Yes.
To raise.
So awesome. Let's do this. Let's go back to, like you said, you've been in this world for 12 years, right? So walk everyone through and kind of paint a picture to your first experience when it comes to like the diagnosis that you receive of your son Nathan?
You can start off. You can go.
I'll go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
So my first experience is when the doctor called me to give me the diagnosis. And at that time, they told me, okay, Nathan does qualify or find him, we do find him on the spectrum. And the first thing they wanted to do was console me, like someone died. And I didn't know, I didn't understand why they were doing that. I was expecting something different. I was expecting them to tell me, okay, this is what the next thing you do. This is the therapies you need to have your child go through. This is the person you need to talk to if you have questions in regards to therapy or like psychologically, what you would do for your next steps. It wasn't like that at all. It was just the doctor saying, okay, here's your diagnosis. We're going to have the nurse talk to you about how you're feeling. So it was really, it took me by surprise because they were more concerned about my grief. And I think at that point in time, since we were working up to testing, I kind of already knew or speculated that he was already on the spectrum. So I kind of dealt with that emotion already, and I was ready to move on. And I wanted to get to like work right away because I felt I was wasting time.
Yes.
I was wasting time for my son. And it took a while. It took a month before therapy started. And so I was like, what do I do now? Or what can I do in between? And I didn't have anybody to guide me through that. And, you know, it was just me and Pete talking back and forth. And Pete had left on a little deployment at that time. And so you want to talk about that?
Sure, yeah. So I got the news from Evie while at sea. And so for me, my first experience was denial. What do you mean there's something wrong with Nathan? And shock. Next probably came embarrassment and shame because like, whoa, oh, wow, I've got a special needs child and I don't know what to be able to do. Felt a little helpless because I was out at sea and Evie was dealing with this on her own, right? At the point, physically, I mean, I can only do so much through email. And at that time when this happened, email was not like automatic across the board to do that. So it was very, very haphazard on what I was able to get from Evie until I got back from underway. So it was an underway period. I wasn't deployed, but I was underway for a couple of weeks. So when they came back, it was like, whoa, what's going on? Because everybody kind of associates that when you are diagnosed with a special needs child, that autism, that is people have this tendency to say they don't look autistic, they look normal. And that was one of the things where I had to admit, it's like, there's nothing wrong. He doesn't look like he's autistic. And we find out later through education that autism is more of a behavior. It's not a look. But everybody lumps all special needs children, you know, whether or not Down syndrome, whether or not all this stuff, that everybody looks a certain way to be able to do that. So a lot of it for me, my first experience really was the denial and the shock.
So when it comes to you describing like that situation and like the next steps, like what would you have loved to have happen instead after you kind of found out about the diagnosis and kind of like you kind of had the alluded to of it would have been nice to have like someone to be there to kind of guide you. Talk to me about that.
I would have loved first after the doctor had given us a diagnosis, they had the nurse call me, and I would have loved that nurse to set up or give us information about a support group, like a parent support group or a peer support group, because I wanted to know more about how someone else was dealing with it. And because for me, I just wanted to get to work. So Pete was feeling something totally different from what I was feeling. And I kind of just put my emotions aside and I just said, let's just get him ready or through therapy. And so I was hoping that getting or having a support group in the very beginning, introduced to like someone that you can talk to, someone that's been through this and get their personal experience. Because there's no handbook. There's no guide to parenting, and you learn through other people's experience or your own experience. And if we had those little nuggets, then that it may have been a little easier for us to make certain decisions. So, you know, autism, again, doesn't come with a manual. It comes with a parent that never gives up.
Yeah.
And there's a challenge every day that we face.
Every day.
And sometimes we just have to throw our hands up in the air and just pray, okay, we're going to get through this. But, you know, let's just keep going and never give up.
Yeah. I mean, for me, just like anything in the military, I would love to have a SOP, a standard operating procedures, step-by-step procedures, gouge sheet, anything to be able to say, hey, this is what you do next. But because, again, parenting doesn't come like that, you know, especially now when you find out you have a special needs child, you're lost. And you're kind of hoping that someone is going to throw you a breadcrumb to say, hey, try this, contact this. It's, you know, sort of like when the baby's born, you leave the hospital, boom, the hospital's done. They're assuming you know what to do next. Good luck with that. So imagine that about now with a special needs child. And it's not like you can go to the Walmart and find out, oh, this is what I do for an autistic child. You have to go through certain agencies to be able to do that. And that's what we're going to be hoping to be able to share with everybody with this upcoming webinar, because again, knowing what we know now, one-stop shop to at least get you started, pointed in the right direction, that gouge sheet or step-by-step procedures. What we hope to be able to do with this webinar is to at least give you the first couple of steps, where you don't want to throw the whole kitchen sink and all of a sudden your mind just explodes to do that. But we want to get you going so that you feel like someone's going to help you through this autism journey, and you're not like totally lost, aimlessly walking around hoping that you're going to land on something to do that. So
Yeah, I love that analogy that you use of being a new parent, like a new brand new baby, where you've kind of been on your own for years, and like now you have this baby, and they literally throw you in the water like expecting you to swim, and
yeah.
you've never swam before. So I love that. So when someone is in that situation where they're experiencing like all this fear, all this like anxiety, right? Like for you guys, what was like the biggest like fear or obstacle that you guys face when it comes to like creating that next step, or creating like the whole aspect of like a little bit of momentum when it comes to this journey that you guys were on?
For my biggest obstacle, it was feeling alone, because I always thought, oh my God, I can't tell anybody about what's going on. They're going to think this is crazy, or no one experiences this. No child ever does this. And I thought just being alone, I didn't want to share with my friends what I was going through.
Yeah, you feel like you're going to be judged, right? It's like, oh, what's wrong? What did you do wrong? And again, when it comes down to, you realize that it's all about, in this case for us, Nathan, it's not about us. So once we kind of get through the shock and realize, oh, the shame and the guilt and everything else, you come back, so, okay, now, and Evie was already ahead of this, right? Because she already kind of mentally prepared herself. What's next for my child? Someone please tell me where to go. So I understand with her feeling alone, with me being out at sea, we couldn't even talk about it, you know, on a daily or nightly basis to at least kind of get through our emotions. It's more like I'm doing it on the ship, kind of being distracted with whatever, just can't wait to be able to get back, to be with the family and be able to hug Nathan and everything else. And Evie's doing this all alone. So I understand she doesn't have anybody right now to talk to.
Well, especially for those single parents, because there are a lot of single parents that I've found and met through the Facebook groups and whatnot. And, you know, they go through the struggle that they have no support. They're alone. They can't really do anything else with their child. And, you know, sometimes they can't even get away because they're away from family, or their family has disconnected from them because, oh, their child acts this way. So it's getting over those feelings, having someone help you identify those emotions and feelings, getting over it, so then you can help your child.
Right. Because remember, all the feelings, all the emotions are valid. It's just a matter of whether or not we live in that space for too long. So that's the thing.
And you know what happens when you keep your feelings or your emotions in, you're going to have a breakdown yourself.
There's going to be a physical manifestation of that.
It's overwhelm, and then, another thing pops up, and that's it. The straw that breaks the camel's back.
And a little slippery slope, and next thing you know, you feel like you're swimming upstream, and you're not able to keep up with it. So, yeah. Cool.
So in that situation, of like fear of obstacle, moving forward, what helped you guys to like overcome it?
Again, talking to someone. And so again, Pete was not here, and we couldn't physically talk on the phone. So I had my best friend who also was blessed with a special needs child. And she was the one that helped me. She pointed me in the right direction. Why don't you get Nathan assessed? If you have your doubts, or if you're thinking something may not be right, she was the one to kind of give me that nudge and say, hey, there's no shame in getting your child assessed. It's actually good to get a baseline to see where they're at. And then, if there is something that they're missing their milestones, why not tackle it now? Because it's in the first 5 years that the child learns. Their brain is
like a sponge. Right? It really is a sponge at that point.
And so after after 5, it's just they don't. It's not that they don't learn as much. It's just that
their brains already
is established.
Yeah, there's already developed. Yeah.
So the earlier, the better. And thank God, Nathan was already 18 months when we had the assessment done. And back then, they were typically diagnosing children around 4 or 5 years old. So I really pushed to have that diagnosis set so I can get the services for that child, for him. And again, the earlier that you have services, the better, because by the time they get into pre-K or kindergarten, they have somewhat of a structure or a routine that they can handle the anxiety of going into like school.
Yes. So for on my perspective, the biggest obstacle was, again, just being able to really push forward, because how to be able to put this, because if we didn't act on it and just said, okay, he'll get better over time, right, the denial, then the later you waited, the harder it became to be able to intervene and close the gap. That's probably the best way to describe it. If someone is speech delayed and you wait till they're in grade school to start addressing it, but you knew about it when they were 2 years old, you've wasted 3 years to be able to close the gap. So it's the same thing with a special needs child. For them to assimilate closer to whatever is going to be their expected lifestyle, you need to intervene sooner than later. And so that denial, like, oh, it's going to go away, it's going to get better, sort of thing, that only happens with intervention with the proper therapist, the proper therapies, and everything else that's accompanied with that. But you have to be able to take the first step. And so that's what we're going to help kind of drive that point with this upcoming webinar, is take that first couple of steps. And these first couple of steps are going to be something that'll be bite-sized enough to where you won't feel overwhelmed, but will help you through that process.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that is an amazing recommendation when it comes to like closing that gap, starting early, right? So when it comes to your situation today, what would you say like your biggest obstacle or biggest issue is at the moment?
Okay.
So right now, currently Nathan's current behavior that we're trying to mold or modify, trying to model, is he's spitting. He's going through this spitting stage. So in this COVID environment, this pandemic, sending a child back to school, if it was perfectly open and everything was perfectly safe, and a child spitting, of course, that's a hygiene issue, now becomes a health issue to do that. So we're not sure what's causing it. And spitting, unfortunately, is one of those, even if it's just a typical child, that if you try to address it if you address it in the wrong way, then you unfortunately emphasize it, like maybe giving into a tantrum or whatever. So we're trying to figure this out, and we're working with the specialists to say, okay, what can we do in school to be able to do this? But COVID is creating a big challenge for us, because okay, if they don't go back to school, or if they only go back to school for a couple of days, again, how does that work? How does the separation? How do you do the therapies? How do you do everything else? And this is just again with the special needs child. So our biggest obstacle right now is Nathan spitting, his behaviors, and the upcoming school year in the COVID environment.
Yeah, and I actually have a problem right now with him going back to school, because he does touch a lot of things, and he doesn't wear a mask.
Yeah.
So it's our school is requesting, once they get back to school, they're going to have to wear a mask. So it's a little, we've got to definitely figure out and think out of the box. And for now, we're going to just do everything distance learning and set up a routine and a schedule that he is used to. And then once they start transferring back to school, we'll figure out from there.
Okay, so let's say that you have this like magic wand, right? And this magic wand is going to be able to allow or grant you like whatever it is that you need help with, and grant you this wish to be able to solve that problem. What would be like the help that you'd be asking for at the moment?
So I've got three things. So one was the spitting. We kind of talked about that we could stop that with a snap of a finger. So let you know, we have a 14-year-old right now that will only go number 2 in a diaper. Okay, so that's one. So we're just going to be open kimono on that. And the other part is we wish he would be able to wear a mask and keep it on, because then we can go more places if we wanted to be able to do that and go back to school, because that's going to be an issue. But the other part is if we could somehow bring school back home where we know it's, I guess, safe for him to be able to do that, but we don't know if that's going to be even possible. So there's a lot of problems that we wish, but the spitting and the wearing the mask and being, potty trained completely would be a big help for us.
Actually, one problem that I would love to have solved would be his intent to communicate. Mm-hmm. I think right now, because he's nonverbal,
yes,
his tantrums do come from being upset or frustrated, and then we're not able to understand him.
Yes, that's a good point.
If we can find a way, even if he doesn't talk, I'm okay with that. But if we can find a way for him to communicate clearly, not only to us, but like our extended family, friends, his teachers, I would love that, because, yes, we're not sure if Nathan will be able to even say more words later down the line, but I do want to help him find a mode of communication that is comfortable with him, so he can communicate, whether it's with words or no words, gestures, any kind of system, a communication system for him, instead of us trying to impose our words on him.
Right.
I want him to learn how to communicate with intent from him.
Right. So like right now, Evie and I can probably get it down 70% of the time. We have our respiratory care worker that I can get it at about 50 or 60% of the time. And then you've got the teachers, at least back in middle school, sort of knew what was going on. Other than that, even with grandparents, brothers and sister, siblings and everything else, it's like, what's Nathan trying to say? What's he trying to do? Or what's he trying to communicate? Maybe a better word. And so it's like, unless you're kind of like really engulfed in that world and just understand, a lot of people are going to see outside, it's like, oh, there's a kid throwing a tantrum. Why can't he wear his mask? Why is he misbehaving? And then again, because he doesn't look autistic, you have to almost come back, and you don't need to justify it to anybody, but it's just that perception. And just, if we could waive that to where he could wear the mask and he's able to talk a little bit more or communicate better, then that'd be good. So we're still trying to decipher Nathan's language.
Yeah, and I think that's one reason why he sticks to me like glue, is because I'm probably the only one that understands him at the most with his communication.
Right.
You know, it's different with everybody. So I would just love to have that, at least for him, so he can be, you know, live his life a little bit more than he has now.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome, and it's really looking forward to the information that you guys are going to be sharing in this amazing webinar, and just having gotten to know like a little bit about your journey through this interview process. I know that's going to be amazing, valuable information. And also like to be connected with you guys if so if you're watching this and you're a parent that is affected or have a child in the spectrum, and you're looking for a community, a support group, just people to be to look upon as like almost like a second family. I know I look at Evie and Pete as amazing friends, but also like chosen family when it comes to how they are. You just have like a heart of gold for people, and especially for families that have a similarity when it comes to being affected with a child in the spectrum. So thank you very much, Evie and Pete, and I am looking forward to your webinar, and definitely recommend it for anyone that is looking for that support.
Thank you, Alonto, for giving us this opportunity. And I will go ahead and post the link to register if anyone's interested in coming along on Thursday.
Thank you, brother.
Awesome, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.